So we have plenty of drama going on in the Championship this weekend. As always, all of that will be discussed throughout today's video, and I want to get your guys' input on this one in the comments down below. What do you make of your team's performance this weekend, and how do you see things going forward? As always, if you're going to enjoy, do leave a like and do stick around for some regular Championship content. Without any further ado though, let's jump into the matches. So starting out with West Brom up against Burnley, this one playing out as a dramatic 1-1 draw. West Brom popping up with a 98th minute equaliser. This was the first time this season that we didn't see Burnley dominating the ball. The first time this season that the opposition actually had more of the ball than Burnley did, and I think that Vincent Kompany admitted after the match that they did look a little bit leggy in this one, particularly towards the end. It was a good start for the away side though. Nathan Tella, I think, gets better every time I watch him in the Burnley shirt. A magnificent touch to take it down from Murich's ball over the top. He then gets brought down. Burnley convert the penalty and they're 1-0 up and lead then for the vast majority of this game. West Brom had their threats and went close on several occasions, but it just didn't seem to be their night up until the 98th minute where Thomas Asante popped up with the dramatic equaliser. Brilliant moment for him on his Baggies debut, and a 1-0 draw played out on Friday night between these two kicked off the weekend. Next then to Ewood Park, where we have Bristol City continuing on their impressive run of form with a 3-2 away victory. Bristol City, if they carry on with this trajectory in terms of the goals they're scoring and the goals they're conceding, there'll be a bunch of fun to watch throughout this season. They are now the Championship's top scorers with 16 goals scored already, but also that leaky defence is worth touching on as well. 11 goals conceded. Listen, some great attacking play from Bristol City in this one. Andy Weimann, while he didn't get on the score sheet, still played a starring role for this one with a couple of assists. Lovely crossover for the first goal into Conway, and that link up with Naki Wells for the next one as well. From Blackburn's point of view, Tyrese Dolan tried to spark that comeback. Bristol City then got their third goal just moments after that, and Brereton Diaz, who has stuck around since deadline day has passed, went ahead and got that consolation goal for Blackburn late on, another one for his tally this season. Yeah, not the best from Blackburn there, but Bristol City on a terrific run at the moment, and I'm particularly interested to see how they do and shape up against my side Preston North End next week, because yeah, they're scoring goals for fun at the moment. Next then to Kenilworth Road for Luton 1, Wigan Athletic 2. Really a game of two halves in this one. The first half, Wigan really had to weather the storm of all the chances that Luton were putting together, really had Wigan under the cosh, and what was ultimately quite a subpar first half performance from the away side. Luton took the lead through Carlton Morris, and I thought could have gone on to kill that game off with some of the other chances they had in that first 45 minutes. Wigan clearly had a little bit of a regrouping at half time though, and the changes they actually made in the second half obviously had the desired effect, because it was a much better team performance with more quality clicking up through the gears into the final third, and Luton's energy levels just dipped down really quite significantly after that first 45 minutes, and credit to Wigan for battling their way back into this one. An own goal from Lockyer levelled this one up, and then what a goal from Asgard from outside the box, an absolute peach of a finish, and a brilliant 3 points on the road there for Wigan given how far off it they looked in the first half. Next then to Millwall up against Cardiff. Given how their last three matches have gone, I think that Millwall needed this one, and in the end they richly deserved 3 points. Charlie Cresswell and Benikafobe with the goals to sink Cardiff in the end. Cardiff, who did have some chances in this one, just weren't quite at it, and I think that everything we've seen from this Cardiff side so far this season under Steve Morrison, with all the new parts that have come into this team, it is very much a work in progress. I think we've seen sort of the good, bad and the ugly of Cardiff in these opening matches so far, and it will take time to get that proper consistency within this group. But yeah, good win there for Millwall, and massively needed given how their recent results have gone. And Norwich are continuing to click up through the gears and continue on their impressive run, easily dispatching Coventry by 3-0 in the end. Timu Pukki up and running for the season now. Are we about to see him going on a hot goal scoring streak? Josh Sargent, who started the season really well also, and Kieran Dowell also involved with the goals. Coventry, while they did have some chances going forward, obviously Cal McFadzean had the ball in the back of the net. That one was ruled out because of an interference in play on the goal line with the player that was offside, and they had some other openings. My major concern with them at the moment comes from how fragile they're looking at the back. It's not necessarily the goals goals they've been conceding, but it's the high quality chances which they're regularly giving up game after game. It was the same when Preston travelled down there in midweek. I know that we are a little bit earlier on into Coventry's season compared to everyone else because of some of the postponements that obviously came, but 5 games played so far, just 1 point on the board, and there's a few performers from last season who just haven't really been reaching those levels so far, albeit we are early on in the season, but there are a few alarm bells going off around Coventry at the moment for me. And Preston North End's impenetrable defence has finally been breached as Birmingham left Deepdale with all 3 points, and credit to Birmingham and how they set up for this one. Really frustrated North End, and it was a perfect away championship performance really. Maxime Collan with the only goal of this game. I'm not going to go too harsh on the North End defence because they've been brilliant throughout this season, but this was probably the most vulnerable that they've looked all season. I thought we got away with a few actually, and Birmingham could have had a few goals actually in that first half. Greg Cunningham looked a little bit dead out on his feet quite early on in this game, and we were lacking that presence of Andy Hughes. But once again, the main frustration with North End is we've not been able to hit the back of the net. There were a few openings in this game. Emile Rees had a couple of chances, Robbie Brady and Troy Parrott again, who it's just not happened for whatsoever in front of goal. But John Ruddy was level to all those attempts, and towards the end we just lost any sort of cohesion, and we just seemed to throw we threw 5 substitutions on in the end. I think that sort of killed the momentum and structure of what we were trying to go for really. But credit to Birmingham, dogged in that second half with how they defended, frustrated us for a lot of it as well, and everything that they expect from a Birmingham side, and I think that they'll need a little bit more of that actually in their away performances to come this season. Ryan Lowe's frustrations probably boiled over a little bit at full time as well. He was sent off. It wasn't the finest refereeing performance I've seen at Deepdale. I thought he had quite a few clangers actually, but that's not to cover up from what was a massively subpar performance from North End here. But credit to Birmingham, thought the Chong looked quite good as well. Next then we have Rotherham playing out a 1-1 draw with Watford. Good way for Rotherham to go ahead and bounce back here from that poor showing last time out against Sunderland, and they started this game absolutely at 100 miles an hour. Richard Wood with another goal for this season. What is going on? He's having a real purple patch in front of goal as things stand. But Rotherham had quite a few openings actually in that first half. They were looking quite good. Bayo manages to get Watford back into the game with a beautifully taken volley, and then going into that second half then Watford started to crank it up a little bit more by the looks of things, but Rotherham obviously got the job done defensively and grinded out the point in the end, and that still wasn't without Rotherham having their chances as well. For Watford, they have been quite draw happy on the road so far this season. 4 away matches, 4 draws, and it was a similar sort of occurrence that we had with Watford last time around in the Championship as well, if I remember rightly. Their home record was absolutely untouchable. They won the vast majority of their home matches, but on the road were a little bit more conservative. So that's something that Rob Edwards will be keen to fix, turn a few of these away draws into wins, and they'll be right up there in terms of the top 2 at the end of the season. But good dogged point from Rotherham there. Next then we had Swansea beating QPR by 1-0, and looking at the match stats after this game, I have to admit I feel absolutely sick. A Russell Martin Swansea side who's only getting 46% possession. Obviously he made a few tactical tweaks in this one to go ahead and curve some of the problems Swansea have been facing so far this season, and I mean the 3 points and the clean sheet may see Martin continuing to involve throughout this season, or maybe this was just a little bit of a one-off. Swansea had the perfect start to this one to go ahead and take the lead, given that penalty after just 15 minutes. Perot couldn't convert it, but it only took him a few minutes later to go ahead and open the scoring. 1-0 this one finished. QPR just looked a little bit flat in front of goal and couldn't quite get things going in the final third, but it will be interesting to see if we get to see a little bit more of this adaptability from Martin over the course of this season, or whether this will just be a little bit of a one-off. I think one of the most underrated things in football, particularly in the Championship with how irregular the results are, is having bounce-back ability, and so far Reading have shown that they've got an absolute abundance of that. Fresh off the back of that 4-0 defeat against Sheffield United, completely got it out of their system with this one, with a really hard-working performance and a muchly deserved 3 points against a really lacklustre looking Stoke City side, I must admit, and I do have quite a few fears for them over the next few weeks with how misshapen they actually look for this game. But full credit to Reading here. Lucas João with the brace, the first goal, an absolute mess from Stoke's point of view, just a long ball coming up the pitch from Lumley. Lucas João manages to deceive the keeper, tucks it in for 1-0. He then has the penalty obviously later on that makes it 2. Ben Wilmot, really clumsy, slashes across him with that tackle. He of course got Stoke's goal earlier on in this game. But yeah, good 3 points there for Reading, and like we mentioned before, they do have that bounce back ability, and at home have really made that stadium a bit of a fortress so far this season. For Stoke, I think Alex Neil, given how these opening couple of matches for him have gone at Stoke, now realises the magnitude of the job he's actually got on his hands and what he's actually working with this Stoke squad at the moment. They just don't look particularly fit or in a cohesive system at the moment, which is a massive concern considering we're now 8 games into this season. And then next up to Huddersfield 0, Blackpool 1. Plenty of controversy coming out of this game. I'd like to get your guys' take on this one in the comments down below. Now, two sides who neither of which looked to be at their sparkling best in this one. It was just that Blackpool had a little bit more about them in the final third. Huddersfield, another pretty subpar performance, albeit the main talking point coming out of this match was the fact that Huddersfield did have the ball over the line and it wasn't given. We've seen a weekend of some pretty controversial VAR decisions in the Premier League, and obviously this was an example of goal line technology going on and failing. We've not really had all too many examples of this, obviously the main one being Sheffield United against Aston Villa in the Premier League. But when it comes to the Championship, it does feel as if maybe there is that over-reliance on goal line technology to the point where referees and officials aren't actually checking themselves whether a ball has gone over the line or not, because they've become just solely dependent on, you know, their watch going off and buzzing to signal that it has gone over the line. There was a failure in the technology. The EFL have since come out with a statement about that, but I mean that won't really wash with Huddersfield. You know, that point at the end of the season could absolutely make all the difference for them. So yeah, bit of a travesty for this one given the technology failing. We've not really had all too many examples of that happening in the past. It does feel like maybe Blackpool got away with one from that aspect, but despite the technology going on and failing, once again it wasn't the best showing from Huddersfield, it has to be said. And then finishing off today with Sheffield United continuing their impressive run with all 3 points away at Hull City. That clinical edge in the final third being the difference between the two sides in this one. Ollie McBurney, who was on some goal drought coming into this season, has been on an absolute fire recently. Pulled the trigger from outside the box and just squeezes it in at the goalkeeper's near post, and then Sander Berge with the goal in the second half to go ahead and wrap this one up. Keeping hold of him until at least January, I think, will prove to be absolutely pivotal for Sheffield United's promotion bid this time around, who at this point in time, I have to admit, are probably looking like the most complete outfit in the Championship from back to front. This game wasn't certainly without Hull having their threats though, and they probably should have had a goal or two in this one. They just couldn't quite make it fall for them in the final third. Estupiñán, who's been on absolute fire so far this season, had that golden opportunity to get Hull off the mark, but a terrific double save from Wes Foderingham was able to deny him. Ozan Tufan also had a one-on-one which he just chipped over the bar as well. So this one certainly wasn't without Hull creating chances, but Sheffield United are on that roll at the moment and they're seriously building up a bit of momentum at the start of the season. There we have it though, guys. That will wrap it up for today's video. Obviously we do still have a game coming up tonight as well. If you want to see my preview for that one, head on over to my weekly score predictions video that we did the other week, but very much looking forward to seeing Middlesbrough and Sunderland locking horns this early on into this season. That will wrap it up for today's video though, guys. As always, do get all your thoughts in the comments down below. Join in on the conversation. Subscribe if you are new around here and leave a like if you went on to enjoy. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.